The Awakening. The Orion colony's emergency bunker trembled as another orbital bombardment struck the surface. Commander Maya Reed gripped the edge of the tactical display, watching as more red alerts flickered across the planet's defense grid. 57 human worlds had fallen in just 18 days. The swarm of alien vessels, the Ket-era Dominion, had appeared without warning, their black crystalline ships materializing near jump points throughout human space. "Communication Relay 7 is gone," announced Lieutenant Park, his voice trained but professional. "We've lost contact with the northern settlements." Maya nodded grimly. "Any word from Earth Command?" "Nothing in 6 hours. Last transmission indicated the home fleet was engaging the enemy near Jupiter's orbit." The bunker shook again, dust raining from the ceiling. Their defenses were failing faster than projected. At this rate, they had hours, not days. "Commander," called a voice from the far terminal. Dr. Elani Reeves, the colony's lead archaeologist, looked disturbingly out of place among the military personnel. "I need to speak with you. It's urgent." Maya frowned. "This isn't the time for archaeological concerns, Doctor." "It's about the ruins we found last month in the Caspian Mountains," Elani persisted, eyes bright with something that might have been fear or excitement. "We finally decoded the inscriptions. They're not alien. They're human. Ancient human military designations dating back to the first expansion era." Maya's attention sharpened. "Go on." "It's a bunker, a hidden military installation predating the colony by at least 3 centuries. According to the records, it houses something called the Sentinel Project." The name triggered something in Maya's memory. Old military legends whispered among officers. A contingency plan created during humanity's first interstellar war, something about a last resort if extinction seemed imminent. "We need to investigate immediately," Maya decided. "Lieutenant Park, maintain command here. Dr. Reeves, you're with me. Grab whatever equipment you need." 90 minutes later, after navigating through mountain passages under the cover of a raging dust storm, Maya stood before a massive metal door embedded in the mountainside. Elani worked at the ancient security panel, her fingers dancing across symbols and patterns. "These security measures are impossibly complex for the era," she muttered. "It's like they were designed to keep something in rather than others out." With a final sequence, the door responded, ancient mechanics grinding to life. The massive portal split down the middle, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Lights activated automatically as they entered, illuminating a facility that appeared untouched by time. Environmental systems still functional after centuries, Maya observed, reviewing readings on her scanner. How is that possible? They passed laboratories, armories, and command centers, all preserved in perfect condition. At the heart of the facility, they found what could only be described as a stasis chamber. A single pod occupied the center, surrounded by humming machinery. Elani approached the frost-covered window of the pod, wiping away condensation. "There's someone inside," she gasped. "The life signs are stable but minimal. They're in deep stasis." The pod's display terminal activated at her touch, revealing the identity of its occupant, General Alexius Varian, former Supreme Commander of the United Earth Defense Forces, a hero from the First Expansion War who had disappeared at the height of his career, presumed dead in battle. "This can't be," Maya whispered. "General Varian lived over 300 years ago." A shrill alert from Maya's communicator interrupted them. Lieutenant Park's voice came through, distorted by static. "Commander, Earth's orbital defenses have fallen. The enemy fleet, they're beginning planetary bombardment. The 5th and 7th fleets are completely destroyed. We've lost." The transmission cut off abruptly. Maya's blood ran cold. Earth was falling. Elani was examining the stasis pod systems. "The pod is designed to wake its occupant under specific conditions," she explained. "There's an emergency protocol tied to a particular transmission frequency, a specialized SOS signal. Can we trigger it manually?" "No. It requires authentication from the highest levels of military command. But Eleni hesitated. The system is still connected to the colonial network. If we could access the emergency broadcast system, we could send a signal on all frequencies, Maya finished, including the one that will wake him. As they worked to activate the ancient communication system, the facility trembled under repeated impacts from above. The alien bombardment was intensifying. Their colony would soon join the growing list of fallen human worlds. Far away on Earth, communications specialist Eliza Chen crouched beneath her console as another explosion rocked the London command center. Through shattered windows, she watched the city burning, alien ground forces advancing methodically through the streets. The capital's defenses had lasted precisely 13 minutes before failing completely. The command center was nearly abandoned now. Most had fled to emergency shelters or died trying. A transmission from the lunar defense base flashed across her screen, then abruptly ended as the base went dark. Eliza's hands trembled as she maintained connections with the few surviving outposts across the solar system. The aliens had targeted communication hubs first, isolating each world before destroying it systematically. They seemed to know human defense protocols intimately. Central Command is ordering complete evacuation to deep shelters, called Captain Reynolds from across the room, blood streaking his face from a head wound. We need to go now. Eliza hesitated, fingers still moving across her console. Just one more minute. I'm compiling all tactical data we've received. Maybe there's a pattern we can exploit. There won't be anyone left to use it if we stay, Reynolds insisted. As Eliza prepared to abandon her post, her system pinged with an unusual notification. A subroutine had activated automatically, something buried deep in Earth's defense protocols. She opened the file labeled Centennial Protocol. It contained emergency communication parameters and a message template designed to activate only when human extinction became imminent. At the bottom was a single note, last resort. Awakens the Sentinel. The building shook again as alien craft targeted it specifically. Through security feeds, Eliza watched sleek, mantis-like machines cutting through the lower levels. They had minutes, perhaps less. Making her decision, Eliza sealed the blast doors to the communications room. "What are you doing?" Reynolds shouted. "Saving us, maybe," she replied. "Get to the shelters. There's something I need to do." Alone in the command center, Eliza activated the Sentinel protocol, bypassing security using emergency override codes. On her screen, a message template appeared with fields for tactical data. She worked frantically, uploading everything they'd learned about the alien attack patterns, ship capabilities, and the systematic extermination of human worlds. The protocol would broadcast on a frequency unused for centuries, reaching some kind of emergency receiver. Outside, the alien machines had surrounded the building, cutting through the reinforced doors with terrifying efficiency. Eliza finished the transmission package, adding a final personal message. "If you're real, Sentinel, we need you now." With trembling fingers, she pressed send. The system drew enormous power as it beamed the signal outward. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then confirmation flashed across her screen. Signal sent. The doors began to glow red as the aliens cut through. Eliza took cover behind an overturned desk, pulse rifle in hand. She had no illusions about surviving, but hoped she bought humanity a chance. Light flooded the room as the door gave way. The alien machines entered with mechanical precision, their bodies smooth black exoskeletons with pulsing blue circuitry visible beneath transparent sections. Eliza fired, striking the lead machine. It staggered back momentarily before advancing again. On her console, a new message appeared, impossible and unexpected. A response to her transmission. Signal received. Stasis protocols disengage. Hold position. Eliza laughed bitterly. Hold position against these things. She fired again as the machines advanced, their weapons powering up with an ominous hum. Then something inexplicable happened. The aliens suddenly froze, their lights flickering as if receiving new orders. Without explanation, they withdrew, leaving Eliza alone and confused in the ruined command center. Back on Orion Colony, the ancient machinery in the hidden bunker whirred to life. The stasis fluid drained from General Varian's pod as Maya and Eleni watched in awe. Inside, a man who had been sleeping for centuries opened his eyes. Dark, penetrating eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The pod hissed open, and General Alexius Varian sat up slowly, his movements controlled and deliberate despite centuries of inactivity. He stood, a tall figure with close-cropped silver hair and features that seemed carved from stone. "How many worlds have we lost?" His first words, spoken in a voice that carried natural authority. Maya stepped forward. 57 confirmed, sir. Earth is under attack. Most of our fleets have been destroyed. Varian nodded as if this information merely confirmed what he already knew. He moved to the facility's main console with surprising steadiness, accessing data with the ease of someone who had used the system yesterday, not centuries ago. "The Ket era," he said, studying the incoming reports of the alien forces. "They've returned. You know them?" Eleni asked, stunned. "They were why I created the Sentinel Protocol," Varian replied, his eyes never leaving the display. "I fought them once before, in a conflict erased from human records. We won, but I saw patterns in their retreat. They weren't defeated, merely regrouping. I knew they would return when humanity had expanded far enough to be worth harvesting." He turned to Maya, his expression hardening into resolve. "The conventional human military cannot win this war. Their strategies are predictable, their technologies tracked and countered. That's why I went into stasis, to preserve what the Ket era could not predict or understand." "What is that, sir?" Maya asked. Varian's eyes gleamed with a cold fire. "Me." On a display screen, urgent messages appeared from hidden locations throughout human space, sleeper agents and hidden facilities activating in response to Varian's awakening. "The Sentinel Protocol has begun," Varian stated. "Now we show the Ket era why humanity should never be underestimated. The war god had awakened, and his wrath would reshape the galaxy." The counteroffensive. Admiral Soren Kell of the United Earth Defense Forces stared at the holographic display with undisguised skepticism. Before him stood a legend, General Alexius Varian, supposedly returned from the dead after 3 centuries, now proposing what seemed like madness. "You want us to abandon standard formation combat," Kell summarized, "disperse our remaining fleet into small strike teams, and attack using outdated technology and tactics." "Precisely," Varian confirmed, his posture perfect despite the tension in the room. They were gathered in an asteroid base hidden deep in the Kuiper Belt, one of dozens of secret facilities Varian had established centuries ago. The Ket era have studied modern human military doctrine extensively. They can predict your every move because they've observed your training, your protocols, your tactical thinking. The gathered officers, survivors from various colonies and fleets, exchanged uncertain glances. Among them sat Eliza Chen, still processing her survival and unexpected extraction from Earth's fallen command center. "What the Ket era cannot predict," Varian continued, "is what they've never seen. Tactics they haven't studied. Technology they consider obsolete." He gestured, and the display shifted to show the asteroid base's hidden hangar. Instead of modern warships, it contained vessels that looked ancient, mothballed cruisers and fighters from previous eras. "For 3 centuries, I maintained a contingency network," Varian explained. "Hidden bases, outdated but functional ships, weapons that don't appear in any modern registry, equipment considered too primitive to be tracked." Understanding dawned on Commander Maya Reed's face. "They won't be watching for these." Varian nodded. "The first rule of asymmetric warfare, when outgunned, change the battlefield." Hours later, their Ragdig fleet departed the asteroid base in small groups, using forgotten navigational routes to avoid detection. The ships were a strange collection, heavy cruisers from the first expansion era, modified mining vessels, even civilian transports retrofitted with military hardware, so old it predated the Ket era's first encounter with humanity. Aboard the command vessel, an ancient dreadnought called the Nemesis, Varian gathered his unlikely officers around the tactical display. Eliza found herself included, her expertise in communications deemed valuable by the general himself. The Ket era rely on predictive algorithms to anticipate human responses, Varian explained. Every engagement so far has followed the same pattern. They wait for standard human formations, jam quantum communications, then exploit the resulting confusion. So we don't use standard formations or quantum comms, offered Captain Reynolds, who had somehow survived Earth's fall. Correct, Varian confirmed. We're using modulated tachyon burst transmissions, technology considered inefficient and abandoned a century ago. The Ket era won't be monitoring those frequencies. Eliza leaned forward. What about their ships? Nothing we've thrown at them seems to penetrate their defenses. Varian's expression hardened. Their hulls absorb or deflect energy weapons by dispersing the impact across a crystalline matrix. It's why modern plasma cannons and particle beams have been ineffective. But, prompted Admiral Kell, but they've never faced railguns or tungsten kinetic penetrators. A grim smile crossed Varian's face. Sometimes the simple physics of a high-velocity projectile is more effective than the most advanced energy weapon. The first engagement occurred in the Epsilon Eridani system. A Ket-era harvester fleet had surrounded the mining colony, methodically destroying its defenses. As expected, they deployed in a standard siege formation, clearly anticipating a desperate human relief force to arrive in standard military configuration. Instead, what appeared to be an ancient cargo hauler limped into the system, broadcasting distress calls and radiation warnings, apparently a damaged refugee ship. The Ket era ignored it as non-threatening, focusing their sensors on the jump points where military vessels would normally arrive. The cargo hauler drifted closer to the alien command ship. When it was within 50 kilometers, the disguise dropped. Modified plates fell away, revealing banks of primitive but massive railguns. Before the Ket era could react, the human vessel fired, launching hundreds of tungsten rods at a fraction of light speed. The kinetic impacts tore through the alien vessel's crystalline hull, designed to disperse energy weapons but vulnerable to physical penetration. The command ship shattered, fragments spinning into its supporting vessels. Simultaneously, 5 small attack craft emerged from the cargo hauler's hold, targeting the confused alien fleet with weapons that hadn't been used in war for centuries. Chemical rockets, depleted uranium shells, and crude but effective nuclear warheads. They're reacting too slowly, observed Maya from the Nemesis, watching the battle through long-range sensors. Their algorithms can't process what's happening. Exactly, Varian replied. Like chess players who've studied only modern games, suddenly facing an ancient opening they've never encountered. Within 20 minutes, the alien fleet was in disarray. Within 40, it was destroyed completely. The first human victory of the war had been achieved without a single advanced weapon system being fired. News of the victory spread through hidden channels to surviving human forces. Varian's strategy was proving itself, not through technological superiority, but through the one advantage humans had always possessed: adaptation. Similar engagements occurred throughout human space over the following weeks. Small, unconventional forces using outdated technology struck Ket-era vessels where they least expected. Mining colonies deployed industrial explosives against ground forces. Agricultural worlds weaponized farming equipment. Each success fed the next, as humans remembered what it meant to fight not as trained soldiers, but as survivors. 6 weeks after Varian's awakening, the remaining human forces gathered for a daring assault on the alien flagship detected near Saturn. The massive crystalline vessel, nearly 20 kilometers long, coordinated the entire Ket-era invasion force. In the briefing room of the Nemesis, Varian revealed the final phase of his plan. The Ket-era are a hive consciousness, he explained. Their individual units function through quantum entanglement with the central intelligence aboard their flagship. Destroy that, and the entire invasion force becomes disorganized. "How do you know this?" asked Admiral Kell. "Because I faced their previous incursion," Varian replied. "In the war that was erased from your history, I led the assault that drove them back the first time." Understanding dawned on Eliza's face. "That's why you went into stasis. You knew they'd return, and you wanted to be there when they did." Varian nodded. "I recognized patterns in their retreat. They weren't defeated. They were gathering data, studying us. I knew conventional human forces couldn't win against an enemy that had centuries to analyze our tactics. So I removed myself from the equation, preserving the one thing they couldn't predict." The assault on the Kedara flagship began with a feint, a conventional human battle group approaching in standard formation, broadcasting on military frequencies. As expected, the alien vessel turned to meet this threat, deploying its forces in the pattern that had proved so effective against human fleets. What the Kedara didn't detect was the Nemesis and 5 support craft, using minimal power and ancient propulsion systems, approaching from Saturn's rings. Their signatures were masked by the ice and dust, appearing as nothing more than orbital debris. When the Nemesis finally powered up its systems, it was less than 2,000 kilometers from the alien flagship, practically point-blank range in space combat. The ancient dreadnought's main weapon, a massive spinal-mounted railgun, fired a single projectile, a specially designed penetrator containing Varian's secret weapon. The projectile struck the Kedara flagship at its command nexus, punching through layers of crystalline armor. Instead of exploding, it deployed internally, releasing a quantum interference pattern that Varian had designed centuries ago, specifically to disrupt the Kedara hive mind. Across human space, the effect was immediate. Alien ships stopped mid-maneuver, their coordinated attacks faltering. Ground forces froze in confusion. The perfect synchronization that had made them so deadly dissolved into chaos. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Varian watched with grim satisfaction as the massive alien flagship began to fracture, blue energy cascading along stress lines in its crystalline structure. "It's working," Eliza whispered, watching sensor data from across the solar system. "They're losing cohesion everywhere." "The hive mind is collapsing," Varian confirmed. "Now comes the difficult part." "Difficult part?" Maya questioned. "Winning was never the challenge," Varian explained, his eyes reflecting the light of the disintegrating alien vessel. "The challenge is ensuring they never return. This time, we don't just drive them back, we follow them home." He turned to address the bridge crew, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. "This was never about saving human civilization," he declared. "It was about transforming it. The Kedara retreated before because they recognized a threat they didn't understand: humanity's unpredictability. Now we show them why that unpredictability makes us the most dangerous species in the galaxy." As the alien flagship shattered completely, Varian's network of hidden bases across human space activated fully. Sleeper ships awakened, ancient weapons platforms powered up. A parallel military force, created by one man who had sacrificed centuries of his life to prepare for this moment, stood ready. "The counteroffensive begins now," Varian announced, as coordinates for the Kedara home system appeared on the tactical display. "And when it's over, the galaxy will understand why humanity should never be threatened with extinction." Across the tattered remains of human space, survivors emerged from hiding to find the alien invaders in disarray. The seemingly invincible force that had swept through 57 worlds was now vulnerable, confused, isolated. And pursuing them was humanity's oldest and most dangerous weapon, not advanced technology, but the sheer, indomitable will to survive. The war god had returned, and his wrath had only just begun.